Yeah, that's the message. So, so many fantastic messages coming out of this. Can we just see if there's any questions from the audience before we start? I have one for Saoirse, if I may, and that is in regard to. You very much talked about fostering a cultural change, but you've mentioned fear at one point. How companies can be fearful of change. Do you have an example, or like say, I know for example as a quantity surveyor we would be fearful that the machines are going to take over, what we do. So where does this fear come into play, and how can you kind of circumvent that?
I don't know if I need this. Sorry, I think I can shout.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
There's fear as I said earlier, at the individual level where people feel unsafe because you brought something into their zone that's unpredictable. But then at a company level, like I have seen instances where companies have been slow to adopt digital technologies because they don't know how to manage the risk. And there's fear at that level, which then, slows down, I guess, the appetite, or it impacts on the appetite for change. So I guess in those instances, it's back to that point around the whole organisation has to own the risk, and you need to figure out how you can de-risk a programme of works. And in de-risking a programme of works, that looks at across the areas of having good partnerships, good technology providers, working with the right bodies, bringing in the right people from your ecosystem, like Enterprise Ireland and SkillNet.
Yeah.
So I think, a lot of the fear comes from not being able to look over the level of risk that's involved. But I think organisations need to start looking outside of their own organisation.
I'm just wondering if any of the audience have any fears of technology, or do you feel intimidated by technology? Anyone? No? So you're all digital champions, is that it? So you've no fear? Okay.
I think on some of the fear comes from, what we find a lot is with professional people in construction, is that depending on where they are within the organisation and the level of expertise, and people very often think, I've achieved this level of expertise, and it's kind of their IP, they feel this is what differentiates me from everybody else in the organisation, like I'm the top of my game. And what we find sometimes, so specifically with our technology, is that we bring it in and people kind of go, hang on, this lowers my differentiation, my USP, my unique selling point, whatever they call it. Okay, so this is now going to level all these people here up to here. Hang on a second, I'm not mad about that, because I spent years cultivating a process that lets me operate up here, and now this software's got to come in and kind of bring everybody up to here. That's part of the fear, is what does it mean for that person's career, or their standing within the company.
Yeah.
Can I just add one point on the fear? Because I feel at the individual level, some of the fear comes from exposure, in terms of if you're starting to work with new software, new platforms, they're only as effective as the data and the information that you're willing to put into that platform. So I think it's up to senior management and leadership and decision makers to let people know what that data is going to be used for across ranks, and how that data is ultimately going to help them do their job better as well.
Would it be fair to say, again, I'll ask the audience again, are you fearful of BIM, for example? Yes?
I believe that a fast transition to digitalisation can put individuals at risk of feeling that their skills is outdated.
Yeah, David said that. He was surprised with the gap, didn't you?
Yeah. But I think a certain amount of fear within an organisation is good as well.
Yeah.
Because with regards to, again, I'm just speaking about what we're doing, so in terms of coordination, in terms of revenue, in terms of CAD, it challenges people to step up to the mark, and it offers people opportunities to excel in different ways as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say fear is a bad thing within an organisation. It keeps people on their toes.
Yeah. Yes.
I also think.
Will you give your name and company?
Yes, sorry, my name is Eric Brennan. I'm from Cabinet Authority Geosolutions. I'm the CAD manager.
Oh, very good.
Look, just an observation. I think it's just it's the sentiment of the talk today. From my experience, from a couple of businesses now, has been the very senior management has always been the block or the barrier for digital adoption. And I suppose, just if the panel would have anything to offer just on that, because I just found that there's been lots of enthusiasm from the mid-management level and the low-management level. And then senior, I suppose, perspective has generally been, we've gotten here on our own steam and our own experience. And just if there was any nuggets of, I suppose, insight you could give, I think that would be
yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and it's a really big problem. And so you get middle management saying that want this change and improvement, and then they usually bring along the junior people with them because just the nature of it. And then you hit the ceiling, on the top floor where nobody wants to know about it. And it's a really difficult one because it takes a really strong character within an organisation to keep going up those stairs and keep knocking on the door. And I suppose, like everything, when somebody is wrong, there has to be a business proposition, a business case for what you're offering. And sometimes people want to go in and say, this new technology is fantastic, and generally describe what it's going to do. And the managing director or the commercial director is kind of going, that sounds like everything else people have been knocking on my door about. So I actually what people need to do is actually be a bit smarter about it and actually say, I'm going to organise a meeting, I'm going to give you a presentation, and I'm going to talk you through what this means and what the business case is and what the value proposition and the benefits are. Yeah, so it's just, you have to sell it. I mean, I was in business, people don't think they're salespeople, but you're always selling something. And in your case, I think you're trying to sell this vision that you have and what you see as the benefits for it. And sometimes you actually have to set that out and say, listen, and the starting point, because I've been, coached in this for the last 6 years with Enterprise Ireland, is like, what's the problem? Is there a problem? Yes, there is. What are the solutions potentially around this? Identifying those, and then identifying if you apply that solution to that problem, it's going to have this impact, both in terms of productivity, value, all the benefits. And I think that's a really good place to start because it actually makes people take you more seriously and go, this guy's not just thinking about technology, he loves technology, he wants another platform. This is actually a person who's thinking from a business sense as to the benefit of this to the company.
I think we talked that about last month as well. We talked about motivation, return on investment. So when you go to the board, you have your sums done. This is the return on the investment in purchasing this technology. 2-3 years in, you'll get your money back. So case studies, all that motivational piece. Collaboration, enablement won't tick the box, but the money will, I think.
Well, I think, if I may, I think it should be encouraged because as somebody who's leading a company, I don't want to always be the one that has to come up with the ideas. I want someone else. I want something fresh to come in. So if the money stacks up, if the case stacks up, I do think it should be encouraged.
Yes,
whether it's successful or not.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a mic there just coming to you there now. Leave your first name and company.
Yeah, Michelle Lynn, Pentagon Solutions.
Pentagon.
Yeah,
Very good.
We work with everybody across the supply chain, right through to clients, etc., even the operations and maintenance and managing their data the whole way through. And one of the main things that we actually see sort of a barrier to adoption, which is where we sort of focus, would be integration rather than the collaboration. Obviously, they're big parts of working with your supply chain, but it's actually integrating that data, is what you said, Saoirse, is getting that information in, how that's going to be useful to yourself as well as the others that you collaborate with, and how you can openly share that data and actually get insights from that. So you actually bring your whole supply chain and what you're trying to deliver together, from that. And sometimes whenever you're selling into organisations, we do find that going into the higher level management, that if you are looking at that integration, what they've already got in there, how they can actually make that, how they can transfer that information, repeat, use that information and bring that forward and actually report on that, give insights and data analytics on that as well. So we find really the integration of the digital structure really is where we, sort of see, the industry.
Yeah. And I think, Rob, you illustrated that very well in your slide, didn't you? Because you had all those solutions and then Site Passport as being the integrator. Is that the idea?
Yeah, no, that's the idea. But I suppose regardless of whether you're looking at Site Passport, looking at technologies, it is that, when you go back to the question, I suppose, of how do you sell this internally, integration is a key part of that, and there should be a slide in your presentation that says, here's how it's going to integrate with all of the other systems we use already, or I don't know how it's going to integrate with these, so these are questions we need to figure out. So, because one of the, the key things that we find is that, a big plus for us is that we have an API, an application programming interface, which means that we can talk to any other technology that has a similar capability, and that is, a huge win, for companies to know that, okay, I want to use your technology to solve this problem, but I know that in the future I'm going to want it to talk to these other solutions. I know that capability is there, because very often people don't know what they want to integrate, what they want to pass, but the capability is there.
Yeah, I suppose I remember being in a meeting with a major contractor, the largest contractor in Ireland in the last number of months, and they talked about data analytics. But of course they would, wouldn't they? Because they're a very large 1.5 billion euro company. But I suppose this series is very much grounded micro, small companies. So I think David drove the message home in that, like, it is all about, if you've only got 10 people in your business, it's all about those 10 people, bringing them on the journey, giving them the skills, no matter what point they came from or what level they came from. So that's really the key. And then as you can maybe become more mature as a company, then one of those people perhaps become a champion, train the trainers, and all of a sudden you're on an upward trajectory, David.
If we appoint anybody as a new champion, they'll walk out the door.
Well, to get for a new job.
If we give them that title, they'll walk out the door.
Why? Okay. But they look for more money or something?
No, if you call them the champion, they'll walk out the door and they won't come back.
Okay, so what do you call them then?
We call them the coordinators or the leads or something
Okay.
like that.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, three very powerful messages. Any other questions for our audience as our speakers as we kind of move towards closing up the meeting?
I would like to ask David, what was the problem with the BIM graduates from IT Sligo?
They couldn't draw.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't draw.
They couldn't draw. It was, when it was set up first, it was tacked on, I think, to the construction management course, and Revit wasn't a part of the course. Mm-hmm. So I need guys that can draw.
I'd love to see the students with the T-squares, actually. No, I do. In Bolton Street, they still have the T-squares.
Well, we find that students coming through from secondary school that have technical drawing behind them, straight away it's a head start. And we've gone out to all of the secondary schools in Sligo town and county, and we've got great response from, let's say, the all boys schools, because drawing is part of it, and no response from the all girls schools, which is a shame. And a lot of the schools now, in 2 or 3 years, they're going to go to co-education. So hopefully that will encourage some of the girls to come into the industry, because they will have access to those classes that they don't currently have access to.
It was my TechGraph teacher in Leaving Cert that encouraged me to go on to train as a QS. Didn't do a very good Leaving Cert, mind you, but I had to go. Went to Galway, got an ESF grant, did a certificate in construction, and go on. But he brought in a QS and an architect and an engineer into us, and it was great.